François Couperin was a French Baroque composer, organist and harpsichordist. He was known as Couperin le Grand to distinguish him from other members of the musically talented Couperin family. Life. Couperin was born into one of the best-known musical families of Europe. His father Charles was organist at Church Saint-Gervais in Paris, a position previously occupied by Charles's brother Louis Couperin, a highly regarded keyboard virtuoso and composer whose career was cut short by an early death. As a boy, François must have received his first music lessons from his father. Unfortunately, Charles died in 1679. The church council at Saint-Gervais hired Michel Richard de Lalande to serve as new organist, with the condition that François would replace him at age 18. Meanwhile, the boy was taken care of and taught by organist Jacques-Denis Tomelin, who served both at the court and at the famous church of Saint-Jacques de la Boucherie. According to a biography by Everard Tito du Tillet, Tomelin treated the boy extremely well and became a second father to him. François's talent must have manifested itself quite early, since already by 1685 the church council agreed to provide him with a regular salary even though he had no formal contract. Couperin's mother Marie died in 1690, but otherwise his life and career were accompanied by good fortune. In 1689 he married one Marie Anne Salt, daughter of a prosperous, well-connected family. The next year saw the publication of Couperin's Pieces d'Orgue, a collection of organ masses that was praised by de Lalande. In 3 more years Couperin succeeded his former teacher Tomelin at the court. The new appointment was extremely prestigious and brought Couperin in contact with some of the finest composers of his time, as well as numerous members of the aristocracy. His earliest chamber music dates from around that time. The numerous duties Couperin carried out at the court were accompanied by duties as organist at Saint-Gervais, and also by the composition and publication of new music. He obtained a 20-year royal privilege to publish in 1713 and used it immediately to issue the first volume of his harpsichord works, Pieces de Clavecin. A harpsichord-playing manual followed in 1716, as well as other collections of keyboard and chamber music. In 1717 Couperin succeeded one of his most eminent colleagues, Jean-Baptiste Henri d'Angelbert, as ordinaire de la musique de la chambre du harp pour la clavecin, one of the highest possible appointments for a court musician. However, his involvement in the musical activities at the court may have lessened after Louis XIV's death in 1715. Couperin's health declined steadily throughout the 1720s. The services of a cousin were required by 1723 at Saint-Gervais, and in 1730 Couperin's position as court harpsichordist was taken up by his daughter Marguerite Antoinette. Couperin's final publications were Pieces de Violus and the 4th volume of Harpsichord Pieces. The composer died in 1733. The building where Couperin and his family lived since 1724 still stands and is located at the corner of the Rue Radziwill and the Rue des Petits Champs. The composer was survived by at least 3 of his children, Marguerite Antoinette, who continued working as court harpsichordist until 1741, Marie Madeleine, who became a nun and may have worked as organist at the Malbuisson Abbey, and François Laurent, who according to contemporary sources left the family after François died. Works. Couperin acknowledged his debt to the Italian composer Corelli. He introduced Corelli's trio sonata form to France. Couperin's Grand Trio Sonata was subtitled La Parnasse à l'Apothéose de Corelli. In it he blended the Italian and French styles of music in a set of pieces which he called Les Scherzi e Canzoni. His most famous book, Le Arti de toucher le clavecin, contains suggestions for fingerings, touch, ornamentation and other features of keyboard technique. Couperin's 4 volumes of harpsichord music, published in Paris in 1713, 1717, 1722, and 1730, contain over 230 individual pieces, which can be played on solo harpsichord or performed as small chamber works. These pieces were not grouped into suites, as was the common practice, but ordres, which were Couperin's own version of suites containing traditional dances as well as descriptive pieces. The first and last pieces in an ordre were of the same tonality, but the middle pieces could be in other closely related tonalities. These volumes were loved by Johann Sebastian Bach and, much later, Richard Strauss, as well as Maurice Ravel, who memorialized the composer with La Tombe de Couperin. Many of Couperin's keyboard pieces have evocative, picturesque titles and express a mood through key choices, adventurous harmonies and discords. They have been likened to miniature tone poems. These features attracted Richard Strauss, who orchestrated some of them. Johannes Brahms's piano music was influenced by the keyboard music of Couperin. Brahms performed Couperin's music in public and contributed to the first complete edition of Couperin's pieces de Clavecine by Friedrich Grossander. In the 1880s, the early music expert Jordi Savall has written that Couperin was the poet-musician par excellence, who believed in the ability of music to express itself in prose and poetry, and that, if we enter into the poetry of music, we discover that it carries grace that is more beautiful than beauty itself. Organ. Only one collection of organ music by Couperin survives, the pieces d'orgue consistantes and messes, the first manuscript of which appeared around 1689 to 1690. At the age of 21, Couperin probably had neither the funds nor the reputation to obtain widespread publication, but the work was approved by his teacher, Michel Richard de Lalande, who wrote that the music was very beautiful and worthy of being given to the public. The 2 masses were intended for different audiences, the first for parishes of secular churches, and the second for convents or abbey churches. These masses are divided into many movements in accordance with the traditional structure of the Latin Mass: Kyrie, Gloria, Sanctus, Agnus, and an additional offertoire and Deo gratias to conclude each Mass. Couperin followed techniques used in Masses by Nevers, Lebig, and Boivin, as well as other predecessors of the French Baroque era. In the Paroisse's Mass, he uses plain chant from the Missa Cuncta Potens Genita Deus as a cantus firmus in 2 Kyrie movements, and in the first Sanctus movement, the Kyrie fugue subject is also derived from a chant incipit. The Mass for convents contains no plain chant, as each convent and monastery maintained its own non-standard body of chant. Couperin departs from his predecessors in many ways. For example, the melodies of the aria acutites are strictly rhythmic and more directional than previous examples of the genre. Willie Apel wrote, "This music shows a sense of natural order, a vitality, and an immediacy of feeling that breaks into French organ music like a fresh wind." The longest piece in the collection is the offertoire sur les grands jeux of the first Mass, which is akin to an expanded French overture in 3 large sections, a prelude, a chromatic fugue in minor, and a giga-like fugue. Bruce Gustafson has called the movement a stunning masterpiece of the French classic repertory. The second Mass also contains an offertoire with a similar form, but this Mass is not considered as masterly as the first. Apel wrote, "In general, did not expend the same care for this Mass, which was written for modest abbey churches, as for the other one, which he himself certainly presented on important holidays on the organ of St. Gervais."